Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. So, for all our Audie fans, he is in the bedroom, sound asleep. He has been there all day long. This morning, I had to go out to the grocery store, and Audie wanted to go out first because he always does, but he didn't come back before I had to leave, which meant he had to spend 2 hours sitting out on the porch. Tragedy, right? Now, for those of you who've been following the channel for a while, you will know that once a year, the first good day in spring, Audie will take a walkabout, and he is gone for more than 24 hours, and it's escalating. So his last walkabout was 37 hours long. I hate when he does that. It really worries me. I mean, yes, he's been doing this for years. Yes, he always comes back, but it doesn't make it any less harrowing for that period of time when he's gone. But that's his idea. He can be out for a day and a half if he chooses, but if I've left and he's stuck outside for 2 hours sitting on the porch, oh no, it's the end of the world. So he wasn't happy. I get off the bus, and he's screaming at me, and he's screaming at the bus driver, and he kept walking up to me, turning around and walking back toward the door, and then coming back. It's like, why aren't you following me? Well, I was following him, but I wasn't following him quickly enough to suit him. Eventually, he did get in. He stopped screaming. He drank his water. He ate his cat food. He screamed at me a little more, and then he went in to take a nap. He has been napping ever since, and I am filming this video at around 6 p.m., meaning that this cat has been asleep in that bed for at least 7 hours. I don't even know what to say. Is it likely he will come out? Yes. Once he figures out that I am talking to you, he will come out and, jostle around to get his fair share of the attention. But yes, that is what is going on in Audie's universe. He has been very good about taking care of me. He was unhappy with me when I left to go into the hospital last week. Again, I wasn't even gone 30 hours, but it was a disaster because, I chose the 30 hours, not him. And he was very irritated with me. It was very important that he rub all over me so he could make me smell like him again, because I smelled like the hospital. Can't have that. I must smell like him. He must smell like me. And he does whatever he needs to do to make that happen. But he got past that, and now we are dealing with this, dreadful, you left me outside for 2 hours. What a tragedy. All right, we're going to take a look at an intro. We're going to come back. I got a couple of things I want to talk to you about today. Okay, first on our agenda, I went back and forth with Colleen this morning, and she and the other angels, Lisa, Karen, Steph, and Colleen, of course, have decided they're ready to go ahead with the Chanel jacket giveaway. So, you need to go over to the suemeangels Facebook group. I have their email address in the video notes for those of you who don't do Facebook. And I find it hopelessly confusing myself, so I totally get that. But if you do, have access to Facebook, just go on over to the group, and Colleen and the other ladies will give you all of the details on the giveaway. Theoretically, this is how it's going to work. People are going to go over to the Facebook page and say, I would like to participate in the giveaway. And the ladies will come up with some system for choosing a winner. The winner will then send me some measurements. Once the winner is chosen, at that point, I will get involved in the process. I am never involved in the giveaway process until after winners have been chosen. And that is your assurance that everything is on the up and up, that I'm not just, deciding who I want for whatever reason I please. 5 people are involved in this, so it's always a very above-board giveaway process. A winner will be chosen. I will get in touch with the winner, probably directly, get a few measurements, because I obviously do not want to go off, make a jacket. Yeah, we're going to get a great video out of it, but wouldn't it be nice if it actually fit the recipient? And if the winner could wear the jacket out in public without having to hang their head in shame. So, I'm going to need some measurements. It is not a fitted jacket. It is a Chanel jacket. These are very boxy, but there are some fit points that we are going to have to deal with. I am sending Colleen over pictures of the fabrics that are involved, along with nauseating details in terms of what is going on, because I'm making this, which means I've selected the fabric. Very specifically 100% wool, boucle. These are the colors. This is the lining. The lining is 100% linen, la, 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 la. I take this very seriously. And I'm sure you do too. Obviously, you want to know what you are getting, because there will be care involved in this. This will not be something that must be dry cleaned. It will be a wool exterior, a linen interior. Oh, by the way, I chose that for a reason, because a wool exterior and a linen interior means you're going to be able to wear this year-round. This is not going to be too lightweight to be worn in fall, or, well, it's not going to be a winter coat, but it's not going to be too lightweight to be worn in late fall, early spring. Maybe all year round, depending on where you live, but it's not going to be too heavy to be worn in the summer. Wool is thermoregulating, so it keeps you cool in the summer, keeps you warm in the winter. And linen has antimicrobial properties. It breathes easily. It absorbs moisture, perspiration, odors, as does wool. So I went out of my way. Remember, my original plan was I was going to make this for myself, but it is just not me. I was going to make this for myself, so I made sure that the piece would be something that I would enjoy wearing. That would not be something that I would have to take to the dry cleaners every 2 weeks, anything like that. This is going to be a low-maintenance garment, unless, of course, you spill a jelly donut all over it. So, yeah, it's probably going to need to be dry cleaned if you spill a jelly donut on it. Personally, I'm making it so it can be washed if you wash it carefully as one washes wool. So, there you go. That's sort of the encapsulation of what's going on with the Chanel jacket giveaway. The jacket will not actually be made until such time as we have a winner, so that I get the measurements I need. Pretty much that simple. I do encourage all of you to get involved in this, because in addition to being able to use this jacket project as a means of showing you some of the sewing techniques I've acquired over the years, I would also like this to be an encouragement for those of you who used to sew and don't anymore. That's the situation I'm in. I used to sew all the time, and then fast fashion came along, and I realized I could go to a store and not just get a blouse for $20 or $30. I could get a silk blouse for $20 or $30. It hardly seemed worthwhile to make clothing anymore. So I kind of stopped. And we are caretakers of skills and wisdom from our mothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers. And for us to just leave it on the back burner, somewhere in the backs of our minds, and not utilize these skills and not try to pass them along, it does seem like a shame to me. I enjoyed sewing. and I am going to enjoy making this, and I am going to enjoy showing you how it's made, because even though this piece is going to have couture finishes, I promise you it is beginner friendly. Anyone who can push the pedal down on a sewing machine is going to be able to make this. And that's another thing I wanted to share with you, that in fact, fancy sewing is just sewing. It's all it is. And people look at this and say, oh, couture finishes. Most of the time, the couture finish is a lot easier than the slapdash finish we're used to seeing in places like, Walmart or Target. So, all right, enough about that. In a similar vein, I want to share with you a jacket I picked up recently. So here's a picture. In fact, this is the picture, the listing picture from eBay. And that's where I bought the jacket. I paid $65 for it, and it is a Ralph Lauren men's jacket. So let's get into the why. What was the why behind the purchase? Well, I threw this all out to you, and this is over the last couple of months. I was talking about wanting to throw some more colors into my wardrobe and struggling to find colors that would work with the existing colors. So this is when we go back to Laura Wade. Remember Laura Wade? She is the viewer who said we should focus on our aesthetic rather than our color palette or whatever else it is that the fashionistas are telling us to do. Ignore them, listen to Laura. Laura had said, my aesthetic was woodland. Never ever occurred to me that it was, but she's right. I have greens and tans and browns. And yeah, there are some navies and blacks in there. Those are the minority colors. But overall, yeah, mostly it looks like I just picked up half my wardrobe off the forest floor. So she's absolutely correct. This has been extremely valuable just in terms of a mental reset, a different way of looking at things. So Laura sent me an email, and it was, I think, the day after I bought this jacket. And she said, I came across these color palettes and I thought you would like them. Well, the interesting thing is she sent me 3 different color palettes, and I think one of them was the colors of a painting, and, it's just stuff she just gathers up. So this is someone who is getting her color theory and inspiration from a wide variety of sources. The interesting thing is, the color of that jacket was in 2 of the palettes she sent. So I have the jacket right here. It's inside out. Because as soon as I get a vintage piece, here you can clearly see the color of the jacket when we look at the collar. As soon as I get a vintage piece, the first thing I do is turn it inside out. Now I'll talk to you about the outside of this in a moment, but right now we're going to take a look at the inside. And I immediately discovered a couple of problems. Now, let's see where I do. Yes, right here. The lining is open at the arm side. By the way, this area where the sleeve fits into the body of the piece, that is called an arm side. I'm just throwing that out. You may never need to use that term, but when people start talking about clothing and clothing construction, that is what a seamstress will call the armhole opening, the arm side. And this needs to be restitched. I'm going to do this by hand because, as usual with men's jackets, the sleeve portion is larger than the armhole on the body. And that's to give extra ease because this is the lining and it's large. Look at the way it's bagging because they want the lining to have a lot of room to move. So that was probably one of the largest and most conspicuous problems. This is, however, 3 minutes of hand sewing. That's all there is to it. And because I'm easing a larger piece, this armhole lining, into a smaller piece, and this is the arm side opening, hand stitching is the easiest way to do it because I can take up all of the ease necessary, scoot it in. If I tried to do this on a machine, well, for starters, the lining is stitched down here. I would have to remove that and I'd have to remove this lining from the body of the jacket, stitch it, and then reattach it. Hand stitching is easy. So something like this, like I say, 3 minutes. There's another problem, and this in fact was the first flaw I saw. And this is the lining. This jacket is not fully lined. You can see there's no lining down here, but right across the yoke on the back. And this section is perhaps an inch, maybe an inch and a half, that has come undone. That too will be hand stitched. And there is one more. Let's see where it is. Here we go. And this is very different. This is not a seam that needs to be restitched. It is a little tear in the lining fabric. Very small. Now, there are a couple of ways I could repair this. Obviously, I will have a needle and thread in my hand, and I could just, whip stitch over that, no big deal. But what I'm going to do with this, as a matter of fact, is I'm going to take a little patch of fusible interfacing, and I keep that in very light weights so that I can use them as little repair pieces or as backings if I want to put an applique on something. And I find it very useful and very handy. So I will just take a little patch of fusible interfacing, pop it inside that hole so that the sticky side is facing up toward the lining, hit it with an iron, bang, done. Now, if I am careful about how I lay this out on the ironing board, you'll barely even be able to see the tear. But this is deep in the sleeve, so no one is ever going to see this. But it does need to be repaired, because any little holes like this on the lining, if somebody caught something on it once, which obviously they did in order to produce the tear, there's a very good chance you're going to catch something on it again. Now, let me turn this right side out again so you can see what we're dealing with. As I said, this is Ralph Lauren. This is not their premium line. This is their Chaps line, which is their more affordable line. But still, it's Ralph Lauren, so their more affordable line is still very la-la. The first thing I noticed when I got this jacket, and now you're getting a better idea of the color, is these pockets are so crisp. I don't think anybody ever even unbuttoned them. And they're both like this. The interior pockets were the same. This is not a jacket somebody got rid of because they had gotten a lot of wear out of it. You can tell from the tearing on the inside of the lining. Somebody got rid of this because they outgrew it. They simply either gained weight or perhaps it belonged to a young man who just grew to the point where the shoulders and the chest, and it would be the upper chest, were a little too big. That's how the armhole lining got pulled out. That's how this piece on the back of the lining, where are we? Here. You can see it got pulled apart because the piece was put on by someone who was simply too big for the jacket. That's good news for me because the jacket is still very stiff. It has It has many of the characteristics it would have had when it was new and in the store. It also has a couple of minor moth holes in the back. Now, you're not going to be able to see them, so I'm not going to make myself crazy trying to show them to you. They are very tiny. But they are in this portion of the back, the part that is unlined. And I gave a lot of thought to how I wanted to deal with that. Now, yes, I've got thread. I've got a needle. I could patch those holes with a needle and thread, but that is not the way I want to deal with it. Given the fact that the jacket, with the exception of this section in the back, is lined, so it's something very closely resembling fully lined, I am just going to line this. Again, remember the fusible interfacing? I ordered some fusible lining. I got something that I think is pretty close to this color, but it's not an exact match because this is an oddball color. It's somewhere between like sage green and taupe. Ralph Lauren, it's designer fabric, so, you know, they specialize in being different. But I will be lining it, and I will be lining it at the ironing board. And that's going to allow me to manipulate the fabric. When I put it down on the ironing board, I'm going to be able to move the threads around these little moth holes so that I can get the holes covered in completely, iron on a lining, and I am going to show you how to do this. But I wanted to go through this pretty much in real time. The next time you see this jacket, those little hand repairs will already be made. But given the fact that I have this jacket here, I see no reason not to show you the things I look for when getting a piece like this. So let's look at this. This is one of the interior seams, and because it's not fully lined, we have access to it. Let me turn this around so you can see. The seam is finished by folding over the edge and stitching it down. Now, if that were done by hand, we would call it a couture finish. No, it's been done by machine, but still, it's a very good finish. And this is a perfectly appropriate finish for a wool garment because wool does not really fray a lot. So this is fine. It's also a big step up from serging, and we've talked about this. Even if you offered to give me a serger, I wouldn't take it simply because, in my mind, serged seams equal Kmart special. It is just a low-end finish because it is the finish you see at the discount stores. Now, I'm not trying to insult anybody who uses a serger. If you use a serger, knock yourself out. I have known people who have done home decor who live on their sergers. In fact, I have curtains in my kitchen that were made by a woman who did custom draperies. All her edges are serged. So, I mean, obviously she hems them and lines them and so on, but all of the raw edges are serged. She lived on her serger. That was like one of the most important pieces of equipment in her business. But for fashion, for clothing you're going to wear, there are so many other options. This is one of them. Now, I took a look at a lot of things in this, including the width of the seam allowances. And by the way, this is the vent in the back. Again, turned under, no visible raw edges, and good sized seam. Here, let me turn this back so you can see. There's the seam allowance. Good sized seam allowances. That's something you should be looking for in any garment. If you are buying something, if you're thrifting it, if you're buying it secondhand, if you're getting it from eBay or Etsy, again, look at the condition. If you can find something that really shows as little wear as this, grab it. Now, I got this not necessarily because of the very little wear. Full disclosure, I got this because I love this color. And this color will go with freaking everything I own. Like, here, even the navy blue, which surprised the daylights out of me. This is sort of the perfect jacket for my wardrobe. There are a couple of other modifications I want to make. The sleeves are only about 2 inches too short for my arms. And that is not enough to be turning them up. So what I'm probably going to do is hem the sleeves and just move the buttons up, to match whatever final hem I put on them. That's probably what I will do with this. Haven't decided yet. We'll see as the process gets further along. But in the meantime, $65 for a Ralph Lauren jacket, all wool, and who was this is Gunter's, and let's see where they are. Gunter's of Crystal Lake. No clue. I have absolutely no idea. So, in addition to the Ralph Lauren label, we also have the Taylor's label. So, I thought that was a very good buy, but it does need some work. And the thing is, if you want to get things that are nice, and this is nice, and you want to keep them for a while, and I'll be able to keep this for a while, you have to be able to put the work and attention into it. What I will be doing after I finish this video is a few minutes worth of very simple hand sewing and, one little tiny iron-on patch. And then I'll take you through the process of relining the back of that jacket, which is, it's going to line the back of the jacket for one thing, and it's going to cover up those little moth holes. And I'm going to end up with a piece that is probably better than what Ralph Lauren put out in the first place, because again, it'll be fully lined. But these are minor skill sets, minor. Hand stitching an open seam is one of the easiest things you can do. And the reason for that is because you have the seam lines to follow. I have the sleeve seam. I have the arm size seam. It's like a follow the dots game. Place part A into part B. What could be easier? So, yes, super, super simple. And that's why I'm not going to bother to do this on the air for you. I will be able to go over some of these hand stitching techniques when we get into the Chanel jacket giveaway. But I assure you, it's a few minutes work. Lining this with a fusible lining is interesting, and that may be something you haven't had experience with. That is something we are going to film when I do it, when the lining fabric comes in. By the way, the lining fabric ended up being just under $20 for a yard of the fabric. That includes the fabric cost and the shipping from Korea. Why was I willing to pay that? Because, pretty high for lining fabric. My goodness. And you know what a bargain shopper I am. Well, the fact is nobody else has it. So I am willing to get this because I will be getting very much what I want, which is a compatible color. And the lining is silk. So we're going to have that silk lining in the back. It will be fusible. It will be ironed onto the jacket, so it will be permanent. It will cover up the moth holes, but it will also give just a little bit of an additional boost to the jacket. And there are some tricks to using iron-on lining that I do want to show you, because it's not as simple as, oh, let's just grab the lining, we'll cut out the right. No, not quite. There are ways to do this that will really improve your chances of coming up with a very successful end result. And that's what I'm anxious to share with you. Meanwhile, yeah, I'm going to be doing a couple of little bits of stitching. But I also wanted you to understand that you can get really nice items. Ralph Lauren, this is a designer jacket, and it's high quality piece, even though, as I say, it's not Ralph Lauren's top line. Ralph Lauren's top line sold for the thousands. This did not. This probably sold originally in the, I don't know, somewhere between maybe $300 and $600 range. And I can't get it now because it's vintage. But even if I could get it now, it would probably be a good deal more than that. $65? Yes, I'm happy with the deal I made. So don't overlook places like eBay or Etsy or Poshmark or Mercari or any of these other resources, because you really can get nice pieces. However, I would also say, because even though the seller on Etsy did tell me about the little moth holes, he did not tell me about the damage to the interior. I expect he didn't know. He probably never turned the jacket inside out. And that is the number one takeaway I hope you get from this, which is turn everything inside out. Look at your linings. Check. In part, you are checking for quality, but also you are checking for damage that is hidden, but might, in fact, as with this jacket, be very easily repaired, or, and conversely, might get a whole lot worse if you don't deal with it promptly. So, yeah, look at the inside. All right, this is what I have for you today. I hope this will be at least a little valuable, just to give you an idea of what to look for, how to cope with these things, because we did get one little tiny trick, that fusible interfacing trick. That one is my favorite for repairing damage that is completely unseen. If a lining is damaged, if something on the inner structure of a garment is damaged, yeah, that fusible interfacing works wonders, because it not only repairs the hole, but because you're cutting your patch a little bigger than the hole is not expanding. In something like a sleeve, personally, I would rather take this route than sewing, mostly because I don't want anything that I could catch. It's not like I have fantastically long fingernails, but when I stick my hand into a jacket sleeve, the idea that my relatively short nails could catch on something and make it worse is a very real problem. So yeah, I'm going to get a better repair with the fusible interfacing than I would get if I were stitching. And no one is ever going to know any better. All right, so those are your takeaways. We are going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. Audie did not come in and join us. What a lazy little cat he is turning out to be. Just, I'm going to sleep in bed all day long. Oh, by the way, he's been sleeping with me all night, too. So he is back on his sleep schedule, which is probably about 20 hours a day. Not just Audie, that's all cats. He's just typical for his breed. But yeah, he's been sleeping all night, too. Before I go, I really should say thank you to all of you for your very good wishes. I am no longer using a walker. I am back to a cane. I will probably be stuck using a cane for another week, maybe two. And yes, I get so much attention from that cat. It is not even funny. He spends all night, not just in bed with me, but under the blankets, so he can be very close to that hospital-smelling leg and fix it. So yeah, he's trying his best to take good care of me, and when he starts taking good care of me at 2 in the morning and I'm trying to sleep, I'm not too happy about it, but I really do appreciate where he's coming from. All right, slideshow on the way out. I hope to see you all tomorrow, and in the meanwhile, have a terrific day.